Hi, and welcome to Cohen Creative Designs Show. We're supporting you to become the designer of your life by implementing tips and tricks to help you manifest your desires. I'm your host, Christina Cohen, and I'm just a girl from a small town with big dreams. I'm motivated by my family and passions for sharing and creating. My mission is to bring you stories from others who have manifested prosperity in their lives and help you take unapologetic action and create the life you desire. Your life and business transformation begins at Cohen Creative Designs. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. I respect that you are such a busy business owner. I understand that. But this means a lot to me and to everybody else who's listening to this. Yeah. So I would love to know a little bit about your background and how it influenced your career path.
Okay, how much time we have?
Till lunch.
Okay. Till lunch. Order lunch. Let's go. Okay. Oh, man. I'll say, so there's so many things that influenced my career path. So I can go all the way back to my father and grandfather who built homes before I was born. So they kind of paved the way. They were definitely skilled and crafted or craftsmen at doing that. In Illinois, where we grew up, you could buy a plot of land, you could dig a basement, you could pour concrete, and you could build a house, and you didn't have to have any kind of license to do that. It wasn't like a required general contractor's license. As long as you felt it was safe, I think you had to have maybe like specialty plumbing and electrical people, but I don't even know if that was 100% required. I remember. This is how I grew up. We went to school every day, and then my dad would be like, all right, pack up, we're going to your uncle's this weekend, and you would go build like an addition onto someone's house. That's how I remember as a kid. Now, we didn't actually do the building, but we played while our parents drank beer and built like additions onto their houses or decks. Yeah. What'd you do this weekend? They built an in-ground pool, okay, but that was our childhood, so there was always something being built. It was always being built by the people in our family. It was always being built by hand. You didn't hire anybody to do anything. Someone knew somebody. Oh yeah, Billy, he's an electrician. Have Billy come over, he'll wire it up. Or Phil's the plumber. Phil will come over and do all the plumbing, and then the other guy's a concrete guy. So it was just a bunch of guys that knew each other, that grew up together, that drank beer. It was a lot of beer. Yeah. If I remember correctly. Yeah. A lot of beer. I have pictures of myself when I was a kid, like 2.5 years old, with a cigarette in my mouth and a beer in my hand. I think my parents were just like
staging it.
Or drunk. Or yes, one or the other. Not sure, but yeah, so that was kind of like
one of the questions we'll write down.
Yeah. Duly noted. So that was the experience that I had growing up. My family, we built stuff with our hands. My dad was very talented with woodwork. He loved to do projects with wood. He always made things out of wood. He made tables like this. He made furniture for my mom. And I didn't understand it at the time. I was like sweating, like cussing him out, and just keep sanding, and I'm sanding and sanding and sanding, and he'd be like, that's not smooth enough. You feel it. And he'd sand more, and then he would put that finish on there, and it was just like, holy moly. It did look beautiful, and I couldn't help but to admire the final product. I didn't understand why a 12-year-old was out there sweating like a slave, just sanding away, but there I was, so that mom could have a new, bedside table, whatever it was. But today I'm grateful for that because I learned what it's like to sand with the grain and to properly finish, and what a clear coat is like, and how to feel if something is smooth, not just look and see, but also how to look and see in the right light if it's, so I learned a lot of those skills from my father. I came from a great family, Midwest, Illinois, good morals, good values. I remember my dad telling me to hold the door for people. My dad told me to, respect my elders, to not cuss. And even though he cussed a lot, and my mom even cussed a lot, he taught me not to do it around certain people. So they taught me, kind of how to behave in public, and then what we got at home was like behind closed doors is behind closed doors. But when you're in public, you act a certain way, you behave a certain way. But then behind closed doors, they were maniacs like everybody else that I know. They're basically, just normal people.
So there were a lot of seeds planted way back then.
Oh yeah.
Before you even understood what those things were.
I
how
remember.
they play part.
Yeah, no, I remember. My dad teaching me, you never cheat on your wife, or you're loyal to people until they're break your trust. Then you got to protect yourself. You know what I mean? So, fast forward, he wasn't Mr. Loyal himself, and my mom and dad got divorced, but he taught me morals. Yeah. Whether he followed them or not, I don't know, because as a child you think your parents are infallible, but they're humans. Right. They're just like you and me today, or my wife and I today. I look at the way my parents raised us, and I know that they did the best they possibly could. But
I hear that he wanted more for you, though.
100%.
By instilling that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I get it today. Like, I'm learning how to do this myself. And then knowing what I know about myself and how I behaved. And I was a jerk. I was a bad kid. I was like a rebel. For some reason I had this switch triggered inside of me that just didn't like authority, didn't like being told what to do, was loud, obnoxious, cussed. I was into all types of course, I think every kid, whatever they get into is not what their parents probably, maybe not all kids, but I picked the kind of music my dad didn't like. I watched the kind of movies my mom didn't like, And so when they told me I couldn't do that, of course, I'm like, you're not going to tell me that. I'll just figure out how to sneak around and do it anyways. So that was, that was I don't know, that was when there was a break. I think, from what my parents told me, I was a good kid, when I was a kid. And then at some point I crossed the threshold where I didn't want to be told what to do anymore. And I really ran with that. And so I started doing things that I wanted to do. Some of that had to do with drinking, some of that had to do with smoking pot, or whatever the party substance was at that time. And especially like that 13, 14, those adolescent, like, experimental times. I had older friends. We started drinking a lot, and we partied. We partied on Friday, Saturday, sometimes even on Sunday. And then you'd have to come home and pretend like you have been drinking and smoking pot and try to do your homework. You know what I mean? To go to school, to go to 6th grade or whatever it was, And and I'm sure, especially knowing what I know about my parents now, they had to know that I was coming home with a buzz. Yeah. They had to know, because they had a buzz. They drink. Their friends smoke weed. You know what I mean? There got to be at one point, it was going into high school, and my dean, there was 4 deans in the high school. My dean was, I'm not going to say his name, but cool guy, was at my parents' house the weekend before, and we were downstairs, and there was a deck above. There was like 2 decks. There was one downstairs and one upstairs, and we could hear the adults upstairs drinking, and then we were like, yeah, they're smoking. Yeah. They're smoking the same stuff upstairs as we are downstairs.
How are they going to know? They're never going to know.
They're not fooling anybody. And so, started to realize, like, hey, my parents and their friends are doing the same stuff we're doing. So that's another thing. When you're a kid and you're being told not to do things, and you're like, wait a second. But y'all jokers are doing it. The dean of my school is smoking weed on my deck. Yeah. You know what I mean? How are you going to tell me not to smoke? This is crazy. And so that's that rebellious, that was, I was confused.
That makes perfect sense then.
Being told not to do something, but yet everybody else is doing it. You're being told not to drink, but you guys are drinking. You're being told, and I get today is rules. There's an age at which you're supposed to start drinking. There's an age at which, I guess you can smoke marijuana. I don't know. I guess it's legal now. It wasn't when I was a kid.
Yeah,
You had to sneak around. You had to buy it at shifty little places and, whatever. Yes. Yeah. Corner. Yeah. It was different.
And friends. Yep.
Can't just go to the dispensary and pick that stuff up in the corner now. It was a lot more interesting back then. But so that kind of steered me into the direction through part of high school that I went to, and then my family moved to Florida. There was some business changes, some stuff that happened. And
how old were you then when your family moved?
I was 15.
Florida? 15, okay.
Yeah, just gotten my permit. I was like learning how to drive. I had a bunch of friends. I had a girlfriend at the time that I thought I loved. And my parents said, we're moving to Naples, Florida, and I had no choice. So of course, being angry 16, 15-year-old, I'm rebellious, and I came down here and man, I hated it. Yeah. all my friends were up there, and of course, there wasn't long. I started hearing rumors my girlfriend's dating somebody else, but she's calling me still. Yeah, you know all that crap that goes on when you're 16 years old, 15 years old, and just crushing me, you know. And so I found myself drinking, to soothe the pain or to hide the pain or to deal with the uncomfortableness. And it didn't take long before that became a problem. It really happened fast because I learned that alcohol and other substances could relieve pain, and I didn't have to feel. And if I didn't have to feel, then it meant that it basically felt like it wasn't there.
Right.
The problem is that I drank and did drugs from the time I was 13 or so, but really heavily when I moved to Florida from the time I was 15, 16 until the time that I quit drinking and drugging. And the problem is I covered up so much that when I quit, it was like a train that just piled in the back of me.
Yeah.
And I had whatever it was, 12 or 13 years of emotional immaturity, problems, the arrest, consequences, things that accumulated over those periods of time where if you would have met me in 2010 before I quit drinking and drugging, you wouldn't even want to be in the same room with me. If you looked at my rap sheet, if you looked at my behaviors, at my criminal activities, the things that I was doing to sustain in that period of time, I was the bottom of the bottom, when it came to society. The people that they lock up for a long time, for my behaviors.
I feel that, as you described the train just completely bashing everything all at once, I feel like that's probably the number one reason why anybody who's still currently in that situation where they just avoid feeling and dealing with that. So now that you've overcome that initial shock of everything kind of coming at you at once, because it's very overwhelming. Everybody carries these emotional, issues or baggage, or, goes through issues. Everybody goes through it. But to deal with it all at once, do you have any kind of advice that you could speak on that?
Yes. So what I experienced was, I'm using my hands a lot, but
I'm wondering if you're silently judging my table.
No, I love this table. I feel like my dad could have made this table. This is great. I could have sanded this thing. So I learned that train that hit me when I quit drinking and doing drugs was, I feel, in my opinion, is what prevents people from staying quit. Because what I had was the years of emotional baggage and consequences from when I was partying and living this crazy lifestyle, that as soon as I quit drinking and partying, that stuff didn't go away. That's the train load that I had behind me. So now you take away my solution. You take away the thing that makes me not have to feel. And then moving forward, day by day, month by month, year by year, you have to learn how to live without your coping mechanism. So the biggest problem for people is dealing with that initial train wreck that hits you in the back of the head, sober. And then, how do I live day by day without my solution? Because alcohol and drugs were never they were a problem.
Right.
But they weren't my problem.
Right.
They were my solution.
Right.
They were how I fixed my problem. The problem was me. I had a bunch of stuff that I never dealt with because at my instrumental time of growth, 13, 14, I started using substances to be cool or to fit in or to whatever it was. Whatever reason that kids go to alcohol and drugs at a young age is a huge deterrent to their growth, their emotional growth, their physical growth, a lot of things. I mean, that's my opinion. I know that to be the case in my own life because now I've gone back and studied it.
Right.
I've looked at the things and the patterns and the things that happen. And I've traced it back to there was things that happened to me when I was a little kid, you know, when I was like 8 or 9 years old and there was an older boy in my neighborhood and, you know, things got weird and it was nothing crazy, but weird enough that I should have told somebody, you know, and I didn't. I buried it at 9 years old. Never told my parents, never told the teacher, never told his parents. I definitely said, hey man, this is weird. Like, what are you doing? Pushed him away, you know. But of course, I look back at that now, and like, this kid was making a pass at me.
Right.
You know, I didn't know what a pass was at 9 years old.
Right.
I was just an older boy in my neighborhood. You know, but something like that, it leaves a mark.
Absolutely.
On a 9-year-old.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want anyone to judge me.
Right.
I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to feel anything about that. I'm not even sure if I knew what happened, other than it was something weird. But I knew, like, when I look back as an adult looking at that moment in time, that I probably didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
So the best thing to do with it was to bottle it up, shove it down inside. And I didn't have alcohol and drugs at 9 years old.
Right.
So I just looked around. Nobody saw that? Cool.
Right.
Keep on moving.
Right.
And I was taught by my parents, keep on moving. You get knocked down, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off. You don't tell nobody, you don't cry. You just keep on moving. You were taught to be tough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You fall down, you suck it up. Suck it up. Wipe that dirt off. No matter if you cut half of your arm off. You know what I mean? My dad would be like, oh, just pour some water on it, put a bandage on it, get back to work.
Yeah.
You know, if a tree fell on you.
Yeah.
You know.
But did you die?
They were like, come on, shake it off.
Yeah.
Get back to work. Like, we were raised to be tough. I mean, I don't know how everybody else was raised. That's how we were raised. Like, you didn't show emotion. You just were tough. So, of course, when something like that happens, I'm not telling anybody. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to, do what I've been taught and just keep plowing forward. And then, of course, that stuff continues to happen as you get older. Not particularly that case, but, things like that happen. Girl breaks your heart. Principal or a teacher says something to you that hurts your feelings. Your circle of friends picks on you, even though they're your best buddies. You don't tell them that it hurts you.
Right.
Like, if my friend told me today, hey man, such and such and such and such, and I was offended by it, I'd be like, hey man, I don't really like the way you're talking to me.
Right.
Change your tone, or, I will make the change, and I just won't hang out with you no more. You know what I mean? I didn't have that set of
boundaries,
tools, whatever you want to call it. Then
it didn't even sound like you had anybody to really talk to or really confide in, because your parental figures. It was it was a shutdown mechanism to not learning how to deal with talking
about your emotional stuff.
You were definitely taught that you don't tell nobody nothing. That was kind of like keep it to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
in our generation, we children were viewed as you're to be seen, not heard. You know, you're there, but some of the things that are important to you are not important for us to deal with. There was a lot, and I can resonate with that with you, that you work hard. I mean, there's some really good morals and values that I would love to still take into my family, and then to leave within their legacy as far as values, traditions, things like that. But that's where, like, I feel like our generation really breaks
so if you
from
go back
that.
and you look back at their generation, the parents who raised them, who just got back from the war, you know what I mean? You wouldn't dare tell someone who just got back from the war that your feelings were hurt. They would tell you to go dig a ditch for 20 hours.
Exactly.
And then here's a piece of bread and butter.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's part of the generational changes, and as time has passed, I feel like that is, we're just evolving as beings. We're evolving as humans. We're learning more about mental health. We're learning more about how these things actually do affect kids at a young age. I mean, I don't remember anybody with allergies. I don't remember anybody with mental health issues. You had Timmy who was a little twitchy or whatever, but that was just Timmy. It was Timmy, whatever. There was just people. There was like, I don't know, like, you just didn't have those things. Now you have a whole list. Now there's like books and books and books on things that people have. And I don't remember that as a child. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. Maybe people died because they had allergies, and so this is a good thing that we know about this. My daughter has allergies, so of course I'm all about knowing now. So, I think just times are changing, and just learning how to deal with that. I remember
we can maybe pick up on like controversial question of, do you think that the next generations are becoming too soft?
I can already tell you. Yes. Okay. My dad used to call me soft. His dad called him soft. I'm calling my kid soft. You're not even born yet. You're soft. Promise you. Do some push-ups. Come on. So here we are. We moved to Naples. I'm super angry, rebellious about the situation. I find myself stuck in a bottle and drinking all the time, going to the beach and partying. I quit school. I don't go to school anymore. I'm making money by, my selling drugs and being a street pharmacist, and but in my eyes, is that's kind of what's on TV. That's what's on MTV. You know, everybody's singing about selling drugs and making money and partying and going to the club.
Yeah.
You know, in the club, 50 Cent, you know. So I was in the club. I was just doing what he was telling me, you know.
Yeah. That was
having
a cool
good
thing
time.
to do.
But having a good time got to be, you know, it's very expensive in the sense of not just monetarily, but like physically, mentally, and going to jail and being in trouble. And the problem is it just happened so fast in the mind of myself. I kept thinking I could think my way out of it. Like, this next time will be different. You know, I'm going to quit doing all this stuff. Next week I'll stop. You get to this point to where there's no more lines in the sand to cross. I'm not ever going to do this, or I'm not ever going to do. I'll do this, but I'll never do this, and then, you know, I'll quit next month, or I can quit when I want to. When I went to jail for 3 months and I quit, you know what I mean? So you quit. Yeah, there's not a lot of access in jail. You know what I mean? There's some, but like, you know, not a lot. So that's not really a good basis of how you are with quitting.
Right.
And the problem was I could quit. I could quit a lot. I couldn't stay quit. I couldn't stay off the alcohol. I couldn't stay off the drugs, and you know, and the consequences that come with that is just detrimental. You know, I have, you know, a couple felonies. I have, you know, DUIs. More so than that, because over time those things I've learned, being sober for a while and living a different life, is those things can clear up and be dealt with over time. But the emotional hurt, you know, my mom and dad, I put my mom and dad through hell. I feel like I was a big part of their troubles in their marriage. You know, mom was trying to save her son, dad was fed up or sick and tired of it. And he was just as hurt. I mean, he loved his son just as much as my mom did. He just dealt with it differently, you know. Now that I'm a father, I can see where I would probably deal with my daughter differently and my wife would deal, you know what I mean? We probably have different ways that we deal with it. I can see that today. And so, you know, get through that. There's just, you know, my grandparents, everyone that was around me got hurt. Because everybody I was around, I could promise them, like I'm promising you now, that I'm going to do something different. I'm going to get my stuff together, you know. And everybody believed me. But the problem was my intentions were good. My actions stunk.
They weren't.
Couldn't follow through.
In alignment.
Right. You know, on the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I promise I'm never going to do it. Just give me $100 and I'll straighten things out. And then, off to the races.
Yeah.
You know, so... I was judged by my actions, not by my intentions. And of course, then I started to feel less and less and less because I couldn't fix myself. And I got to this breaking point where I was 29 and 7/8 years old. And it was like 2 weeks from my birthday. And I was facing prison and I was back against the wall. At that point, my mom wasn't allowed to talk to me. My dad had made it clear it's either him or me. Make a decision. He's destroying himself and everybody around him. You know, he's facing prison again. You know, like, at what point are you going to, you know, cut ties with this kid, you know? And so I wasn't really a kid. I was 29 years old, going on 30. And, you know, this opportunity came for me to go into this. I've been on probation, I don't know, like 7 or 9 times, something like that. And I violated every single one. Every time I violate, you go back to jail. It was just a revolving door of, you know, get in trouble, get out of trouble. Get in trouble, get out of trouble. Get in trouble, get out of trouble. I mean, I just never stopped getting in trouble. Like I said, I was a horrible criminal. Yeah, I was my best customer and my worst customer. Yeah, I wanted more and I could never afford to pay for it. You know what I mean? So I had to do.
This says Biggie, never get high on your own.
That's right. Yeah.
Missed that.
10 crack commandments. Yeah, you got notice. Yeah. So, you know, that was my life. You know, it was just a vicious circle. And the thing was, at one point, it was glamorous, and I was on top of the world. I was in VIP clubs and standing on top of tables and popping champagne bottles and pockets full of money and driving crazy nice cars, to being so broke I had to borrow $10 to get a case of beer, or, you know, steal $10 to get a case of beer. At the very end, it was literally, can I get a couple dollars? Yeah. Just to get a drink to take the edge off. You know, that's a pretty far stretch from being on top of the world, you know, to being down here. And of course, the way that I was raised and the morals that I told you about, even though my parents drank and drug, they didn't live these crazy lives. They worked. You know what I mean? They did their best. 9 to 5s, or owned businesses, or my dad had a car dealership. I mean, all types of different stuff that they did. Insurance companies, whatever it was. they made it through without having to do this crazy stuff that I was doing. So then knowing in the back of your mind, I'm a complete failure because this is not the way I was raised. I have a conscience. It's very small at this point, but this is not the way I was raised. What am I going to do to get out of this jam? You know? So back against the wall, they offer me drug court. I say yes. I assume I'm going to go in. I'm going to violate because that's what I've done the past however many times.
Right.
So something happened to me though. I was walking out of the courtroom and I just felt completely broken. Like I couldn't do it. I had gone in 2 weeks in a row, and they just told me, look, you just need to come in sober and we'll let you in. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll be back next Tuesday sober.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I made it like 4 or 5 days and I had to take a drink. The uncomfortableness, and that's what I'm talking about. That train wreck of emotion, that train wreck of crap just kept powering me ahead. And the only thing that took away the uncomfortableness was a drink.
Yeah.
And so like the second time, third time, whatever it was, I told my attorney, I'm like, look, man, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't stay sober. So tell that lady I apologize and that I'll take my prison sentence. And it was 6 years hanging over my head. He said, all right, you sure? I said, yep. I told him, because he's my attorney, you know, client, attorney privilege. I said, they can catch me when they can.
Yeah.
I'm gone. And I proceeded to go right back into that life, you know, that I was been living.
Yeah.
And basically walked down the steps that day. I looked up and I said, God, I can't believe this is the cards you dealt me. Like I was at my wit's end. Like I can't believe. So not only since I can't believe, I'm basically going to kill myself. I didn't have enough courage to like put a gun in my mouth and pull a trigger, but I will go and buy enough stuff that I could put into my body that will hopefully end this disaster. And that was my mind. I can't believe this is the cards you dealt. And since this is the cards you've dealt me, like I know I need to get sober because I'm facing prison, and yet on day 4 or 5 I have no choice but to drink. So I'm done with this. I'm over it. I'm out. So I go to this place, get a bunch of crap, put all of it into my system, and I black out and I wake up, my phone vibrating, and I'm like sitting in a bathroom on the floor and my phone's vibrating and there's a 4-digit number. I don't know about you, but the lifestyle I lived, you didn't answer numbers you didn't know, especially 4-digit numbers. I don't know if 4-digit numbers call you, but
spam.
Yeah. It was
extended warranties.
It was a guy from a rehab who I've known. I'd been there before and got kicked out, and you know that kind of stuff. He didn't really like me. I didn't like him, and there was valid reasons. Why would you like someone who didn't come in and participate and do what they're supposed to, and always left or broke the rules or all the crap that I did? And he said, "Man, hey, look, I got a bed for you, and this bed is available tomorrow. If you do not come, it will never be available again."
Whoa.
And I was like, "I'll take it."
So you didn't die.
I didn't die.
For us.
Because I'm here.
Somehow. Way, shape, or form.
This is proof of it. I'm here. I'm not dead. No. Yeah. So I answered the call for some reason. It was the rehab. He said he's got a bed for me. I called my mom and I said, hey, I know we're not supposed to talk, but I got a bed in rehab. I need a place to stay until tomorrow. You got to take me to rehab. So she let me go home. I stayed there, and she took me to rehab the next day.
So this
it's very blurry at that time. I can't remember if I took a taxi. I don't remember. I think she might have dropped me off. I honestly don't remember. It was a very blurry time. I went into rehab. I slept for like 6 days. Yeah, I slept for 6 days.
Good Lord.
You're highly medicated and all that stuff. But during those 6 days, I mean, they wake you up for stuff, and you're like a zombie. You know, they got you on all these meds. But you know, there were some people that came in for some 12-step programs. They bring a variety of groups in from different 12-step programs and kind of showcase what they offer. And I gravitated towards one. There was a couple people that came in. There was people that came in that I knew who were now sober, and that was a big deal for me. Like, wait a second, you know, I know you from the other side.
Yeah.
What are you doing in here? Hey, I've been sober for 3 years. It's like, boom, a little mustard seed of hope. Like, wait a second, if that dude, because of course I'm always better than or less than people, right? So if he's in here sober, because in my mind he's always less than. Most of the time I'm better than, you know, in my mind, better than everybody, especially in that position. You're never better than me. You're always less than me. And it's just my disgusting thinking back then.
Well, I mean,
you know, that's just how I was wired.
Yeah.
So if he can do it, I can do it. You know, so that was like couldn't believe that he was sober. So, hey, maybe I can do this stuff. You know, and then I started,
no matter how negative you want to talk about that part of things, it's something that happened for a reason, because that was a silent motivator for you, that competitive side.
It really was.
You
This
know?
guy was in a wheelchair. He'd been shot and paralyzed and had suffered a lot of stuff and a lot of, you know what I mean? And like I said, I knew dude for a long time. And then seeing him sober was like, holy crap, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
You know, and that's the beauty of 12-step programs. I've only been in one, but I know a bunch of other ones. I think they all kind of steer people in the same direction that, look, if we can do it, you can do it. There is a possibility for you to do it if we can do it. And that's, I know now today, because I've been in one for 11 years and however many months. You know, September 15th will be 12 years of continuous sobriety. So,
great.
Which is a blessing.
Yes.
So that in itself is awesome, and it's a miracle, and you know, but that's where my career began, because prior to that I had no career. I tried to work for my dad. I had a job at Toys R Us for a week, and you know, I worked at GNC and got fired for sleeping, you know, on the job. And, you know, 2 or 3 jobs I had throughout the time I was, you know, 16 to 29. The rest of the time I made money hustling, you know, or stealing or borrowing or begging, whatever it was. You know,
Just getting by.
Getting by.
Did what you had to do.
A miserable existence, literally just getting by.
Yeah.
And that's why my life today is so full, so like just overwhelmingly, like, I don't know what the word is, man. I'm just grateful. Like I try to exude gratefulness because I came from some place where a lot of people don't come out of. Yeah. You know, so you know, so yeah, I got sober, I got in this place, they guide you into these places and these meetings, and you know, I'm meeting people who I like. Yeah. They're speaking things that I have only thought. I'm like, wait a second, they're talking about things that I only think about. I would never dare say these things out loud, because I was told you don't tell people the way you feel. You don't tell people that, you know, whatever. And then to come to find out that I thought I was the only person that had the experiences that I had, like when I was 9 years old. Come to find out, almost everyone I talk to has had some kind of weird experience like that, because human beings are weird people and they do stupid stuff or crazy stuff. So this happens to a lot of people. So I'm not the only one. So I don't have to be ashamed to share that with people. Right. Oh, wait a second. You had parents who drank and had a mother who didn't drink, but your dad was alcoholic. So there's more people like that. Then I found out there's people who drink the exact same way that I did. They drank for long periods of time. They drank, you know, from the morning to the night. And yet their lives are better. Then I found there's, you know, so basically there was all this, I'm not so unique anymore. I'm just like everybody else in this room. And if all these people are doing well, why can't I continue to do well? So the identification is what really bonded me into this place, and I met some really great people who were living sober and living really good lives. They owned businesses, they had families, they had, you know, all the things that I had missed out on by quitting school. Like I had my you know, childhood friends had all gone to college and had families or were having kids, and here I am going to jail and being miserable. And then I'm 30. I get my 30th birthday in rehab. You know? What the heck am I gonna do? I gotta do something. And the guy who I met, who was my, you know, the word is sponsor, mentor, friend, you know, whatever you want to call it, said, man, I'm gonna tell you from my experience, is that if you put half of the energy into working that you used to do drinking and drugging, and the other half of that energy into staying sober and working in this fellowship that we have, this 12-step fellowship, he goes, I can guarantee you will be in a much better place. I can't promise you anything, but I can guarantee if you put 50% into a job and 50% into staying sober, you're going to be in a phenomenal place.
So we were just like, yes.
Yeah, I was sold. It didn't take long. By the time I got out of the 28-day treatment and 10-day detox, I was sold on the program. I was sold on the wanting to do something different. I think God had entered my heart at that time. I just couldn't see it. I think that prayer on the way down from the courthouse step was answered. You know, I think that guy who called me, well, I know now because it's different. After I got out of drug court and after I was like a year and a half sober, the judge knew my mom because she worked for an attorney and felt bad and didn't want to send me to prison. Called David Lawrence Center. That guy then called me, told me, you have a bed, but it's only available today.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, miracles. You might not see them as miracles. Somebody might see them as, that's just because your mom knows somebody, whatever.
Yeah,
okay,
but each
that's
placement,
for you. Yeah. Every single person had to be perfectly aligned for all that to happen, for little old poor Blake to get into treatment. And then when I got into treatment, that guy had to wheel his sorry butt in there in a wheelchair for me to say, holy crap, if he can do it, I can do it. Yeah. So you start stringing these coincidences together. A lot of times they're already
there, but a lot of people don't know even how to open and look. We call them
God shots.
Yes. You ask.
A lot of God shots.
You ask for signs, and they will appear.
And they appear. So, and there's been so many from that point to today. I mean, I just bought a commercial building yesterday. And there's a part of my story. I've already talked about my dad passing away. When my dad passed away, my stepmom found a dime when she went to the bank to transfer all of the power of attorney and funds and all this stuff. I don't know what the heck she had to do, whatever she had to do, the responsibilities with him. And she found a dime right by her car. And then right after that, she found dimes like in her house. Wait a second, I'm the only person living here, and now there's a dime, and I don't remember putting that dime here. Then I started finding dimes. Okay, so it's weird when one person started finding dimes. Now it's really weird when I'm finding dimes. Now my wife finds dimes in strange places.
Everybody else having fun.
Strange places at certain periods of time, like when we got engaged, when we were getting married, when we found out we were pregnant. Like, she has found them. So
what do you think is that sign telling you?
I feel like it's my dad keep an eye on us. It's crazy.
I was going there too. I didn't want to put that.
So when I rented my last building in Bonita, at the time it was way more money than I could ever fathom spending.
Yeah.
At that time, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like $1,800 a month. You're like, oh my god. How are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
And the guy I was trying to sublease with another guy with someone else. That was going to be like half the price, and it didn't work out with him. And I said, well, I have this place like $1,800, but I don't know if I can afford it. And this guy who I was trying to sublease with for $900, he goes, how can you not afford it? And it was that shift in thinking, that one word that he said to me, and I said, you're right. How can I not afford it? I'm a business owner. I need this facility. And from that time, in the last 3 years, we have, quadrupled in growth. And so that building was one of my least expenses. Like, $1,800 a month was nothing. I mean, if we started doing these bigger numbers.
Yeah.
I wish I could find something for $1,800. That's why I just bought a building. So when I moved in yesterday and was looking for the mailbox key, opened one of the people that moved out. Like, almost everything is empty. I called the old owner. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for the mailbox key. He's like, oh, it's hidden in this drawer, over here. So I go, and every drawer in this place is empty except for this mailbox key drawer. Open it up, there's a dime in the mailbox key. So at my building when I rented, there was 2 dimes that I found when I moved in. I moved into this new building that I just bought. Dime. So these are things that happen that they kind of let me know things are happening.
Yeah.
The universe is working all the time in or around myself and others. And if you can see those things, it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're connected to this whole big thing that's going on, because for so many years I didn't feel connected to anything.
Right.
And now that I've been sober and I have found God and I have this life that is second to none, I am like over the top, like comfortable with everything, because no matter what endeavor I'm doing, if it's scary or new or exciting, it's not overwhelming that I'm going to go back and drink or the world's going to come to an end. Like I'm connected. I am God conscious today.
You're certainly trusting the process. I am centered
in the universe.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means. I'm not here to tell anybody that there is, there isn't, there wasn't, there is, what.
This is your story.
I know I'm connected to something. And whatever that something is working.
Yep.
I don't have to explain it.
Yep.
I know it.
Yep.
And since the day I came to believe in that, my life has turned nothing but amazing. And every door that I've ever wanted to open has been open for me, and doors that were needed to be shut were shut for me. And sometimes that is a blessing in itself, is that door had to be shut so this window I could sneak out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Let me sneak up out of this one and get over to the next one.
That's incredible.
And so, and that's got me, to learning how to work. I got sober. I started working. I did what that guy told me to do. I put all my effort into the only opportunity I had, which at that time was volunteering at the St. Matthew's House. My dad was giving me a couple $100s because he felt bad for me, so I could pay my drug court fees and my probation and stuff like that. And I went and volunteered at St. Matthew's House. I met some people that worked at St. Matthew's House. I had never heard of the St. Matthew's House. I really didn't know what it was. They were chefs in the kitchen, and they were young, and they were fun, and they were in the same fellowship as me, and so we were just hanging out. We were cooking food, and we were going to meetings, and we were, doing service work. I didn't know that was service work. I just was not hanging out with all my old friends or cronies, whatever you want to call them. And man, I fell in love with the food. I fell in love with the kitchen. I fell in love with cooking. I fell in love with the creativity that came behind cooking and these chefs. And because I liked food, my family was always did a lot of cooking at shows. And our lunch order is hopefully on its way.
I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to talk about things
this
in there.
This show is over. I'll smell those fajitas. It's a wrap.
They're still sizzling.
We'll do a part B of this, this podcast. But yeah, I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the people in the homeless shelter. And I fell in love with community and what service meant. And I met, at that time, it was Governor Rick Scott. He used to come into St. Matthew's House, and he would serve for Thanksgiving and Easter. And I got invited to church. And at that time, I wasn't really big into God. I was sober. I was living a new life, but I really didn't want anybody preaching to me or like pushing God on me, because I just was like, I had a prejudice against it. And so I met this guy that worked at St. Matt's, and he was like, hey man, I'm going to church on Sunday. You want to come? He asked me every other week for like a year. And I'm like, man, I got to shut this guy up and just go to church.
Fine.
So I'm like, yeah, sure, Gary, I'll go with you. And he was all right. He's like, dress up, wear a suit. You know what I mean? And I wore suits in the fellowship when I spoke and when I did service work. So I had no problem. I had some suits. Put on a suit, and I went to church. And Governor Rick Scott and Ann, his wife, were there, and so he introduced me to them. Hey, this is Blake. He works at St. Matt's, and by that time I'd been hired at St. Matt's, not just volunteering, and I was working in the catering business, and things were going really well. And so I went to church, and the guy who preached, man, Kurt Anderson, freaking love that guy. He married my wife and I. Had a way of talking about God and the Bible and Jesus and these things that I was uncomfortable with because for some reason I had these issues with it. But he had a way of putting it in layman's term where I was like, wait a second, this is like normal people talking. This isn't like people up on the mountaintop, speaking tongue. This is just a guy up there talking about God. Man,
it's not so scary.
I kind of like this. So I went back. And I went back and I fell in love with that church. And, I did great at that position, and the catering business took off, and then I got kind of moved up into a different position where I was like doing marketing for social enterprises, which is that was the St. Matthew's House had thrift stores, a recovery, men and women's recovery, and they had the catering business. So I basically got to go around town and talk about those things at networking groups. We joined the Chamber of Commerce. We were doing networking events. We were catering a lot of things, and I was kind of the spokesperson. So from someone who came from the streets or being basically a bum to being the spokesperson for a homeless shelter and their business enterprises and their social enterprises, Van Ellison and Gary Bruton put me in that position. God bless them. Man. They put their faith in God. They saw something in you. And they, I don't know if it was me. I think they probably put their faith in God. And they sent me out to do this, but things were going well, and it really helped. At that time, with the exposure that St. Matthew's House was getting, it taught me so many things. And I learned about marketing. I learned about personnel because he put me in a position where there was people underneath me when I really never had people underneath me except for volunteers at St. Matthew's House because we ran that catering company with a few employees and then a lot of volunteers.
Takes a different kind of leadership to be in that position.
And he taught me about what, he came from corporate restaurants, and so he had so much more experience in things. Taught me how to look at things differently when it comes to people. And one of the biggest things that he taught me was, if you take someone else's opinion of someone and you apply that to the person when you meet them, you rob yourself of the opportunity of getting to know them from your perspective. Because that person's perspective might be jaded, it might be different, it might be suspect, it might be something.
It's altered in some way.
Right.
Somebody else's perspective, regardless.
And if you go into every relationship, and I mean just meeting someone with an open mind to make your own decisions, you'll have a lot better chance of not, disrupting your own thought. I mean, because if someone says, hey, Christina is XYZ, I'm coming in and think, here we go, XYZ.
Yeah.
But if I can remove that and see it for myself, you might see it from a different perspective.
That's right.
And so that was one of the lessons back then. No one ever explained that to me.
Right.
I just assumed if someone told you something
it must be true.
Must be true. Let me just combat myself.
That's fake news.
So, I had these great when the student is ready to teach their peers, right? So I had these great mentors that have come along, and it's from there. It was this other guy was a guy that I love and cherished, and he was retired, but he was the owner of Kelly Roofing for a very long time. He passed it on to his sons after an injury, but still had a lot of worldly knowledge and had done a lot of traveling, and was kind of became like one of my best friends. He was an older guy, but one of my best buddies. We traveled all over the place together. He's talked me into starting my own business. And in his time, when he was about my age, he started a handyman business, then started a painting business, and then started Kelly Roofing. And as everybody knows, Kelly Roofing is a huge, successful company now. And so I valued his opinion, and I was super fearful, and I was like, you know what? Let's do it. What do I have to lose?
Yeah.
I came from nothing to where I am, which at that point was like, I was making a decent salary, but it was more money than I had ever made. But in the sense of where I am today, it was nothing, in a sense. And I said, what do I have to lose? He said, there, do the same thing. Put in your 2-week notice. You know what I mean? And so my girlfriend, now wife, and I built a website and put an advertisement in the newspaper, Becker Home Maintenance, handyman service, and like a good... insane person, I was like, I need a break. So I went on vacation for 9 days, and I went to Ireland, and we went all over Ireland.
Oh, that's cool.
And I kind of just threw caution to the winds. I blew to Ireland with these guys, and we traveled, and I was asked to speak all over Ireland and to share my story about my sobriety and stuff like that. And we went to all these different places, and it was just we went to Kiss of Blarney Stone, and we were at Giant's Causeway. I mean, we toured the whole island of Ireland. Basically, I think we saw almost every square inch of that place in 9 days. We didn't stop moving the whole entire time. And on the last day, we were sitting in this friend of ours, Jimmy Burke's. We were in Jimmy Burke's place, sitting there, drinking tea and eating cookies, and my phone rings in Ireland, and it was this lady. Rebecca Bean, my very first client. Still know her, still talk to her to this day. I still call her and thank her every now and then when something major happens. Aww. She says, this is Becker Home Maintenance Handyman Service? Yes, it is. Hey, I got a job at my house. Can you come by and do it on Monday? And this was like on a Saturday. I'm in Ireland.
Yeah.
Like, of course. And I'm like, I got one. I'm like so excited.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I basically had... when I got home, I was basically out of money.
Yeah.
I was insane. I went on vacation after quitting my job. I didn't think right back then. So I'm like, I'll be there. And I worked for her. I worked for her sister. I worked in her neighborhood, and that was the start of Becker Home Maintenance. And so I learned, took my dad's, old skills that he taught me of being a handyman, and went out and became a handyman. And I brought the hospitality industry that I've been taught in the catering from St. Matthew's House, and I really wanted to be over the top with customer service.
Yeah.
And something that I did right at first was I did emails, and I had a QuickBooks invoicing system. And most handyman wrote things on the back of a piece of paper, or they took cash or whatever it was. So people were like kind of excited. I was a little bit more professional in that in that first couple of years. And then things just really took off with Becker Home Maintenance. And I learned that you can't do a lot with a handyman license, so I went out and got a painter's license and a flooring license and, you know, cabinetry and trim work license. You know, I went and added a bunch of things so that I could do more. And of course I started hiring in people, and you know, I learned about employees and payroll and taxes. I learned how to lose money. I learned how to make money. I learned how to break even a lot. You know, I learned so much through that period of time. And I learned that I don't know everything. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned. I learned that I don't know everything. And I don't think I ever will. And as long as I can keep that mindset that I don't know everything, I can always learn. I can always be...
Well, it gives a very open mindset for things, and that ambition to, like, there's always something more.
And every step of the way, I've met more and more mentors, more and more teachers. You know, I'm still a student, and I'm you know. That's right. And I'm ready, and the teachers keep appearing.
That's right.
And there's been these amazing people, you know, that have come into my life. You know, Don DeFlavis Construction was one of them. I started working with him, and he taught me how to do sales and estimating of big projects, you know, a couple $100,000 remodels. And it's like, well, I went from doing $500 handyman jobs to kind of merging our offices together with him. So, and then he was using us for handyman stuff, and he was paying me commission to sell his jobs. So I learned how to sell jobs, and his wealth of knowledge of just construction was fantastic. And he ended up moving, you know, out of the state, but still has a very successful business here. And then I met John Huffman, you know, and Huffman pulled me under his wing and taught me so much about systems and processes and what a business owner should be and shouldn't be. I was working 90 hours, 100 hours a week at a time, and he's like, you're a businessman, but you're not a family man. You're not successful if you're not spending time, you know. And so it was like, no one's ever talked to me like that, you know. But then all at the same time, he would pray over our office and make sure that we all were, you know, okay. And he asked for God to bless everything. And, you know, so I've had these just variety of different type of people that have been influenced in my life. And then recently I got my, you know, my buddy Chad, and his business is just thriving right now, Monarch Builders, and he's really pulled me under the financial wing of things and kind of taught me how a business should run financially. You know, John and the team over at Vanguard really helped get Becker Home Maintenance in shape. And then I learned a lot, and they kind of cut you loose after a year of their services, and you go on and do it yourself. And you know, we've had to hire people and fire people, and we've learned culture and how things work, and the structure of business and what's good for everybody. And if one person doesn't really fit, sometimes you got to get rid of them because they, you know, and so there's just so many things that I've got to learn, and it's all possible because I don't drink anymore. I don't do drugs anymore. I don't get in trouble anymore. I'm God-centered. I'm focused on my community. I'm trying to do things that will create a legacy, right? Try to provide something my daughter could be grateful to take over, or just be happy that that's her father. Right. My wife is very comfortable with her position. She gets to be a stay-at-home mom. She's my brand manager. She's the brains behind everything. She's the one that keeps me in check. My crazy ideas get us a lot of places, but they also could tear down the house if not confined, controlled, and directed in the right place. Because I do have that look out the window creative mentality. And that's got us to our new venture, man. We're doing general contracting work now. You know,
that's incredible.
I went to school. I'm the guy that quit school. I went to school.
Here you are.
I studied. I passed all my tests and the first time. I can't believe it. Praise God. Because
that's awesome.
There's no way other than God that I could have passed those. I had COVID during one test.
Oh, Lord.
I barely got through the next two, but I passed them. I don't know how, but, you know, I prayed through the whole process, and it got me through.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and, you know, started Becker Custom Builders, and...
I see that logo on your shirt.
That's right. There, see Becker. Call us, look up the email, whatever, the website, you know. No plugs right there. But...
it's not a paid sponsorship.
Yeah. I can throw you some money. Under the table right here. This period of time that went on, the building we were in sold. We were going month to month with our lease. I started looking around for other places because I have this new company. I might need something a little bigger or a little different. And I can't find anything. And I'm looking at
and
the prices.
If you do find it.
And I'm looking at the prices of what they're charging now compared to when I had my place 3 years ago. It's like double.
It's different.
And
it's
I'm
definitely
like,
different.
Holy smokes. Like,
there's a lot of concern going into it.
This is, what are we going to do? Like, this new company's either going to come in and change our rates. I'm sure. They're not going to continue. They're not going to give me this rate. There's no way. If every other place in town is double than what I'm paying right now, there's no way.
Correct.
You know? So I got a little nervous, whatever, started shopping around for places to rent, and I'm like, wait, man, there's nothing in Naples, there's nothing in Bonita, there's nothing in Estero, there is some stuff in Fort Myers, and I'm like, man, I'm not trying to
drive all the way there, yeah.
You know, and so I was like on the 11th page of 12-page search on LoopNet, just looking at things that were for sale, because everything was out of my price range, and it was like this, like the second to last page, you know, and I see this building on Shirley Street, and I'm like, no way. And I show my wife, I'm like, look at the price. Like, we can afford that. And then in big red letters, it says no cabinets. And I'm like, crap, we sell cabinets. I wonder if there's like, what's the catch? There's got to be a contingency or something, you know?
Yeah.
And so my wife and I, we looked at it, we talked about it, you know, these are my ideas that I come up with. We have looked at a few buildings before. They were way outside of our price range. We probably could have made it work, but they would just be big empty buildings. We wouldn't have no money to do anything on the inside. You know? And so we've gone and looked at them, and we got back in the car, and she's like, nope. Shot me right down, you know, and my eyes, I'll figure I'll just make it work. Like, I've always been that kind of mentality, like, we'll just get in there and I'll figure it out. But that sometimes drives us crazy. Huffman says it all the time. Jump off the cliff and then build the plane on the way down.
Yep. Right.
So she's like, no. And then I was like, all right, whatever. So we go to church on Sunday, and I was like, let's just drive by this place and just see. Let's just see where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, I looked it up again, found the address, and we drove by, and it's like the frontage. It faces Shirley Street. And there's this guy outside talking on the phone, and I'm like, you want to pull in there? She's like, yeah. So we pull in, we're just looking out the window, tinted windows. And he's looking at us, and my wife's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Should I say something? So she's like, get out. So I get out, and I'm like, hey, you the owner? He's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, is this place still for sale? He said, yeah. And I said, all right, cool. I said, can I look? He's like, yeah, sure. So I was like, come on. So we go inside, we look, and it's, you know, it's a complete showroom. I mean, it's completely filled with all types of cabinets and flooring and, you know, decorative stuff. And, you know, it's then there's offices upstairs. And, you know, I'm like, man, this is like, I definitely got, you know, beer goggles. Like, this is beautiful. And he does really, really high-end work. So, I mean, it's really nice.
Oh, it's good stuff, too.
And, you know, we get back in the car, and doors closed, whatever. And I'm like, what do you think? She goes, I love it. And I was like, no way.
You think what I'm thinking?
My wife loves it. This is great.
All right.
So I was like, what do we do? And she was like, I don't know. Like, should we make an offer? So I called my real estate agent and made an offer. And, you know, here we are. 2.5 months later.
Awesome.
Purchased it and moved
so
in.
happy for you.
So,
you had a grand opening?
We are. Once I rebuilt it, because he took everything out of it. So, which I don't blame him. It was a lot of stuff. But,
what would you like your legacy to be as you leave behind? Because you've had such an incredible scaled spectrum of a life. So what do you want to be known for? What do you want to leave behind for your friends, family, children?
I mean, I'm just getting started, so it's a complex question in the sense that there's so much I want to do, and I'm working on the means, therefore, that I can do. But I definitely want to be known for someone who was a pillar in their community, who helped as many people out of the dredges of alcoholism and drug addiction through mentorship, you know, sharing my experiences, anything I can do to help those type of people. So I want to definitely be known for a guy who helped as many alcoholics and drug addicts as possible. And I want to then also work on the community. You know, there's so many areas in our community. We feel like we're in the richest community in the world, but there's so many areas that need attention.
I agree.
Need love. There's so many people who don't know God, who could probably have such a better life if they just met God. And I don't want to be pushy. because I didn't want pushy.
Right.
When I found God, when I was introduced to God, it was on my terms, and it worked, and it stuck, and it
Right.
you know, and it's grown. So I get it. I don't want to be. I didn't want pushy on.
Right.
I didn't want pushy God. You know what I mean? I needed to find my path and my journey. So, I think, you know, helping find. Helping groups of people find that way, whatever it is. If it's just through things like this, talking on a podcast, or sharing my story with someone at lunch or over coffee, that just gives them a little bit of hope that, hey, I don't have to do it the way that it's laid out here,
Right.
or my church said it's this way, or it's nothing. Like, that's not how I found it. I
Right.
found it in my own way. I go to church now, you know, and I enjoy what I get from church, you know what I mean? But that's not how I found it.
Right.
You know, I found it like on the street level.
Right.
You know, and I think that's how Jesus taught it. It was on the street level. You know, so you know, that's where I really want to leave my legacy, and then of course my family. You know, I want to make sure that my family is taken care of for generations.
Yeah.
I was raised very comfortable, in the sense we never needed anything, but we definitely struggled with finance and, you know, ups and downs, and
Right.
moving from this big house to this little condo, or to this big house to this little, you know,
Right.
a lot of, like, I don't want my my daughter or my future children to ever have to struggle when it comes to that. But at the same time, I don't want them to be spoiled rich kids either.
Right.
You know, good work ethics. I want them
Right.
to understand the value
Right.
of hard work, and hopefully carry that on and teach them. You
But
know,
I think you have so much
how to-
experience with what you know of what you want to bring in from tradition, because I feel the same way with my children, and what you've learned, and I feel like you could really reevaluate how your parenting is, and how to treat, and how to allow them to learn. You know, because we all have to allow our children to make their own mistakes and things, or go through some of the trials of things to make things work. But it's all, you know, I feel like, you know, just being a shoulder to, you know, or someone to listen to them, you know, to help guide them in the right ways. I feel like you've got a great mindset, and you are sober to be able to really guide them, you know.
Yeah, I only have 41
gracefully.
and a half years experience as of today. So maybe in 5 years I'll have some new experience that I'll be
Yes,
able to share.
absolutely.
Maybe in 10 years from now I'll have a different perspective on things. Maybe, you know,
Yeah.
depending on the way the world goes, I'll be on an island somewhere hiding out from everybody. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But all I know is that from where I was at 30 to where I am at 41, I have learned and gained so much, and so that gives me so much hope for like the next 11, 12 years. Like, what's going to happen in the next 11 or 12 years. And we'll have to circle back.
So, this is my last and ultimate question.
Okay.
I could ask you, how could we bless your socks off, or how can we support you on your journey to where you're going along the way?
I think the best way that you can support us is to speak of the character that I hope I exude into both businesses. And, you know, referrals, of course, is a great way to help out, but more of networking and introductions, I think, you know, is if you hear somebody that could possibly be helped by either our businesses or our charity or our community work. If you know someone who's suffering from alcohol and drug addiction, who needs someone to talk to, or a parent who has a son or a daughter who's struggling and you know what to do, or they don't know what to do, you say, hey, I know Blake went through that. I might not personally be able to take care of that person, but I can guide them in direction to where they need to be. So if anything you heard in the last hour touches your heart or your ear in the future, that you think that I could be of service in some form or fashion, that would probably be the best thing that would bless me.
All right.
Yeah.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you, Blake, and congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
And can't wait to see how much more you grow out of this,
Yeah,
because
this is great.
you've got great ambition.
Yeah. Now let's eat.
It's lunchtime.